But he has a right to take back the Mylars, which are defunct, from what I understand. I mean, that's what David suggested.
They won't be, they're not a, that Mylar is not approvable now anyway, right?
No, it's not. Well,
So-
there were there were numbers of conditions that were met, or I'm sorry, did not necessarily get met. And, you know, one was an easement on a well, and the other was
Yeah.
to present the Mylar. Well, the Mylar,
Here's the thing, is if Paul had responded immediately, there would have been all sorts of
right,
adjustments
But-
that we would have made to make it go through. If he
Paul
res-
got this,
if he
and
re-
yet it died.
Right, if he'd responded to that letter, come and picked up the Mylar, we would have
Yeah.
said, get it back here.
I had to
you
go
know.
and search for this to find it, and, you know, Paul never approached me about, well, what's up with the steel the steel subdivision. So, I mean, let's put it this way, it's a dead horse, let's not beat it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They just need a new application.
application.
It's just an
So nothing-
unfortunate set of
and
circumstances.
they need a new application, and a lot of the information that's on the existing application will serve them going forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It'll
Okay.
be an easy application for Paul.
Paul,
He
because
does
he's
it.
got done the
Yeah.
research, he's already done
Do
this.
you want a motion of some sort?
Well, yes, that would be appropriate. So, do you want to make a motion?
Well, I mean, since it's on the agenda, it seems like an emotion, an emotion.
Let's make a motion.
An emotion. I make a motion that, that Sheldon, contact both Paul and,
Robin Frost.
Robin Frost, bringing them up to date with the understanding that this application is defunct and a resubmission is required.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do you mind giving me a copy of this?
Yeah, sure.
Because I can keep it in this file and then I'll scan it and email it back. to
So you, since you
both.
found that letter, you don't need any.
No, I've got all the
Yeah,
information.
I was sure you had, but it's
Yeah.
funny, I was sorting all my stuff and I came across it. I came across this all printed out with the, the comment from, about it.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, I think for future reference, I mean, there's undoubtedly, it's not the only time that we've had an application where conditions could not be met.
Right.
And, the safe response is, if it can never be met, it's a reapplication.
Yeah. Yes, and I,
Thank you, appreciate it.
this may or may not have been one of the things to kind of spur us to, now I think we try at least to have our process be conditional, upon A, B, and C. These conditions need to be met within 90 days or 60 days.
Well,
We've put a time limit on
we
things.
have on Mylars for sure, and I think a time limit is a really good move.
Yeah, and then either
Yeah.
things get,
I-
either the process continues or it's dead for a year and a half, then it's
Yeah.
done.
I agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's take it off.
Well, that's gone, and I feel very comfortable with that response.
So I just want to remind everyone, at the time you put that condition on with the information you were given, it was able to be met. You didn't learn that until after the
It
fact.
wasn't met.
It couldn't be met, but that wasn't told to you when that application came in. That was oops, that information came out after. So that was, just reminding you, that's how that worked. That you didn't approve it saying, you didn't approve it knowing that she had passed away
No.
months ago.
Yeah, that's really,
Well-
I was trying to, the timelines were like, why am I confused? Am I off a year?
No,
Yeah,
no,
and
no,
that's
you're
one
not.
of the-
You're not. When it came in, it was portrayed to you that it was easy enough to get that
Well,
signature from
by the
both
way,
owners.
David Little made a point of saying that we needed waiver from both owners.
Because
The word
Yes.
both
Yes,
was
and it was
emphasized.
never, at that particular meeting, it was never told to you that that was not a possibility.
So that is
That-
a
right.
little bit
Did he know?
odd.
Did he know that she had passed?
Well, the timeline was
Well, King was
she
talking.
passed away in
That's right.
January 2017, and the
Application was August.
the application came back at us twice, once on August 23rd of same year,
Right, right.
and then September 18th, same year. So it's really unfortunate and odd that that
I'm
was
just
never
saying that
came up.
I was just saying that it wasn't that you knowingly put on a condition that you couldn't meet. With
No.
what information you had, that easily
No,
could
we
have
didn't
been
know
met.
anything about
It's
this.
a little perplexing, because it does seem to go back to the same discussion we've been having about how ownership is verified, which is that, who knows when the property cards were updated, but could David, could Paul actually have been doing an application for someone without knowing that one of the,
Well, I suppose that's possible. Maybe even Paul didn't know.
That's unlikely.
anyway.
But
anyway,
But that's
then-
neither here nor there.
It is neither here nor there.
Okay, but the fact of the matter is, it's very clear in our subdivision regs that it has to come from town records
Yeah.
within 5 days
5
of
days,
the application. So, that's a rule that we have.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon.
And it is entirely possible that even if she died in January, that it hadn't been probated and the town records updated by
Right,
April 1st.
correct,
And maybe it wasn't required to be probated,
okay.
because, I mean,
All right.
maybe they owned it jointly and
Yeah.
she
Yeah,
died
that's
and
survivorship.
it went to him, and you wouldn't have to probate it.
Right, but then tax records are updated April 1st, which would mean that if she died in January, that as of April 1st, the records should have been updated to correct the single ownership.
How would they know?
I'm trying to think of how the process works. I don't know.
So, I mean,
I mean, she would have
Certificates
inherited
of-
it by right of survivorship, or he would have
He would.
inherited it. And there's no requirement that it be probated, so maybe there would be no notice from the probate court to that office that ownership had changed, if they were even aware of it.
I'm trying to think, we had one of these in Effingham, and it just kept cycling around because first the gentleman died, and then while it was being probated through to his wife, then she died, and it went to the daughter, and it got very confusing.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
You know, the timelines are difficult and complicated sometimes. Let's not worry about it.
You know,
Yeah.
I just meant maybe Paul didn't know. It's entirely
Okay.
possible he didn't know. I would think,
So,
yeah,
but maybe not.
you would think.
We have
You would think,
two
but still,
items
it's an-
remain-
It's a year and a half later now, and it's.
we have actually 3 items remaining on our
One of them,
agenda.
I realize, I'm looking at it and I think it should have been not included.
Well, so
Which is
the
that?
plat requirement discussion,
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
that all about?
No, that's a
Okay.
graphical error.
Okay, that should be replaced with
Cake,
8 o'clock at my house.
yeah, I agree.
Cake requirements
Cake
discussion.
requirement discussion.
Is it just a typo? Instead of
Typo.
plat, it was
It's
supposed to
it's
say
a
cake.
typo, yeah.
But I want to say happy birthday early.
Oh, God, that wasn't supposed to be part of the
When's-
discussion.
I think it's for him Saturday, I think.
Saturday?
Yeah, but it's not much of a birthday.
Well, what the heck, you know,
What are
everyone
you, like
should say,
60?
Sheldon, everyone's important.
Really, everyone
I'm-
counts.
I'm only turning 70 and I'm retiring, so I mean, it's not much.
It's
of a-
not a big deal.
Yeah.
My mortality
beating me,
is, my
buddy.
mortality is in question. Anyway, we're okay. Let's keep moving.
How did Pat know all this information?
Okay. So, cell tower ordinance, PWSF, FS. Oh, no, SF. First of all, I'm gonna say, am I the only one who thinks that what we received from, her name is Carrie Ann, was a really great foundation for us? Does anyone have a feeling about that?
I thought it was good.
I thought it was good, yeah,
I thought it would have taken us a year.
It was, yeah,
yeah.
I think it's money well spent.
Oh, yeah,
oh, absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
And
And,
you sent it to the selectmen.
No, so, okay, the update on that is, it was decided at our last meeting to hold on to it until we had an initial go-around before giving it to the selectmen.
Because we're too late to get on this year's.
But I did
Well,
send it to
anyway,
Steve
so
Gray
They discussed
only,
it at the selectmen's meeting.
well, okay, that's,
That's what I was.
it did go to Steve Gray, and that's probably my mistake in the sense that I did that before the meeting our last meeting, but, you know, I clarified that to Steve after the fact that, well, you know, we really need to grapple with this in the planning board, and then the next sequence would be to grapple with it with the board of
I
selectmen.
told him that. I
Okay.
raised my little hand and
Thank
said,
you.
if we
Yeah.
haven't even
So,
perused this at all. It's just
a
huge-
year from this point, we need to have had a public hearing,
11 months. Give yourself a.
have had 11 months, a public hearing in preparation for presenting it to the voters at town meeting, March 2020. That's our goal. I think we can meet that goal.
I think so. I don't
Okay.
know why you guys-
And
You're the expert. You're the de facto expert.
You're the keeper of the document.
Okay.
so in an effort to meet that goal, we're going to be a little restricted with ongoing meetings in the near future. First of all, we have an April 10th, no work session in March. Let's clarify that,
Good.
because of
What?
town meeting and everything else. No meeting in March.
Everything else.
Our next work session, we have a March meeting, but no work session in March, I should say. We do have a regular March meeting, you know, at some point here.
I'm crushed. I thought you were going to schedule a work session. So I could
March
get 11
27th
minutes.
is a
We can make
regular,
that happen.
is a regular meeting,
We have a work session like at.
but no work session, okay. But our next work session after our March meeting will be April 10th. I've sent out a notice to the police department and to the fire chief and who represents the rescue squad. And so they're to come to an April 10th work session and report to us in terms of the implementation of the master plan. So that's ongoing, and that's kind of set in stone because that notice has already been set out.
Right.
You might want to think today about the work session after that, which would be in May, as to who is next on our list and whether I should be giving a heads up about that.
I'm gonna give you notice now that I can't be here in April. I'll miss that.
Okay. Well, the best thing to do is to send me an email.
I will.
What are you doing, fire, police, and public safety?
Yeah.
That one? Okay.
David Littlefield and Rich Colton, Colcord.
Cool.
So, maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. I think the process of having a few individuals, whoever feels like they want to be involved in this, I would encourage, maybe not necessarily the whole planning board, but we should go over that cell tower ordinance outside of our regular meetings, because it's a big effort. We'll be distracted with regular public hearings and applications, and we already have a lot of work sessions tied up with our implementation process. So I know you seem to really want to be involved in grabbing a chunk of this. Am I correct in assuming that?
Well,
You're stuck in the
I
role
would,
now.
And I did, I read the whole thing.
Okay.
And I'm ready to talk to anybody that wants to talk about it.
Okay. Well, I'm willing, I've read the whole thing, and I'm willing to get involved in some informal discussions. I actually think, if we have 4 people on the planning board, that's a meeting.
Mhm.
So is that a
I
problem?
don't think 4 people would be required to.
Maybe we try to keep this to 3 people, so we
I
don't
think
have
that
to
would be
make
plenty.
big deal out of it? Is there anybody here?
Yeah, make it just a subgroup of people that are interested
Yeah, so,
specifically in that.
so who would want to be involved in any of that?
I thought Amy was.
yes, and I just apologize because the.
Okay.
Well, he didn't
I
stay
blame the
either,
weather.
so. we
Well, I
didn't
mean,
do
is there
anything.
anyone else? Maybe we do straws? I mean, I don't know what to say.
I didn't miss it.
We are
No,
have a new
no,
member,
we
don't forget.
came over
next
to
week.
Yeah,
say that
um,
he's been trying to call me to say.
We will have a new member.
Why don't you wait until your board is reconfigured?
To get to the
And then
next one.
say you're looking for, what you might call a three-member steering committee to work on it and bring it
That's
back.
not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Bring it back
That's
to
not a bad
the,
idea.
to the full board.
Okay. Well, all right, that's not a bad idea.
Could I ask a couple of questions?
I have good ideas
First.
occasionally.
Before we get off this topic, I just want to ask a couple of questions.
Well, that's great. Do it, because this is the discussion. We actually have a half an hour to discuss this.
Okay. Well, what I want to say, a couple of things. One is, as a practicing lawyer, you read a lot of statutes, a lot of ordinances. And you're reading them for a number of different reasons. One reason is because you're looking for information. The best way to find that information is to look at a table of contents. This table of contents has a lot of errors. And anyone looking for something using this table of contents would not find it. So, a couple of things. If there's a possibility that this person has this on a document that could be changed, I'd be happy to change the document rather than our paying the lawyer to change the document. But they may not agree to do that.
Did we get it as a PDF, not as a,
I think, well, I don't know.
Well,
what
we
got
did
as.
get it.
we should have it as a Word document.
We should have it as both.
Yeah, but don't pay her until you get a Word document. No, literally.
I agree.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. The
okay,
bills come
okay.
in, do not pay them until we have a Word document.
Has that bill been paid?
It's almost paid.
Okay, I need an action point. I need to, first of all, go back to my original email from her and see what it really is. Is it a Word document or is it as a?
Yeah, if it's a document that we can make changes to, it would save us a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And I would be happy to make
I'll
those
get,
changes.
I'll find the email.
I don't see why we wouldn't.
I looked it up before I came in, so I've got it.
Let's see who
Okay.
gets there first.
So,
I mean, my action point would be contact her and say, thank you for all your great work, but we need it as a changeable Word document.
Right, because
Okay.
ultimately, this is gonna be our town ordinance,
Yes.
not anything for the state or any of her other clients. I mean, she may revise this or something for other clients, but
Yeah.
it should be her work product for our benefit, and we ought to be able to make changes if we want to.
I have a little input.
It's a Word doc.
If it's all right with
It is
the
a Word
rest of the
doc?
board,
Yeah.
I
Wireless
would like to
ordinance
pay
rewrite.
Try
for
making
now
a change to it,
see-
just to be sure, just.
Well, I don't have Word on this computer.
No, but if it's a Word doc, you can.
It's a Word doc, we're good. Okay, great.
Okay, all right.
All done, set.
All
What
right,
I was
you can
gonna
take
say
it down.
was, I would like to pay her now because she has done the work that we asked her to do.
Yeah, I agree,
Right.
and
Okay, but this was
it's
good to
a new
confirm.
point. By the way, it's already been a couple of months anyway, so
Yeah.
she should get paid.
Yeah.
We're past 60 days.
Did we pay one time before? Because
No,
see,
that was just
I
for,
remember another bill, but I don't know.
We
what
got
it was
another
for.
bill for, just Matt Surge's time, not her time to actually deal with the document.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it was
Just
a much
his
less
phone call
bill.
where you called and made arrangements for someone to do
Right,
this work.
he
I
set
remember.
Carrie Ann up, and so that's why
Okay.
there was some
Okay.
double
By the
money,
way,
but-
for your notes, the original document was emailed to Sheldon on January 9th, and Sheldon forwarded it us to the same day. So if you look for something from Sheldon on January 9th, you'll get the forwarded message from Carrie Ann that has the document attached, which is a Word document. So that, the key thing is that's a January 9th email that would allow you to track it down.
And did we discuss this at the work session, if we did have one in January, or the meeting? There was a selectmen's meeting right after you told us about the ordinance, and you said I'd send it to Steve.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And then a couple, 2 days later, practically, they had a selectmen's meeting.
Yeah,
If you could figure that date out, I would suggest very strongly that you watch that from the video.
okay.
Because many comments were made.
About the wireless?
about this ordinance.
Oh.
That Steve had copies made, every selectman had one, then went over.
Wow, they really
And
went
so the thing
went
is,
wild.
you definitely need to see some of the comments that they made.
Well, that's great.
Were there comments with regard to their responsibilities and planning
Versus-
board
oh,
responsibilities?
Versus our
and-
responsibilities.
Yeah,
and-
because I had a lot of questions reading this document
Yeah.
about those.
But other things too, just so that
Okay.
if we're gonna go over it, we can have a heads up of what they're concerned about. If you question.
Okay, okay.
That's good to know. these
All right.
things.
All right. Well, okay, why don't you iterate your concerns or your comments on this? Just continue with, first of all, the fact that the, I'm sorry, the table of contents?
Well, I mean, one is substance, one is style. But style matters, because whether you use a comma or don't use a comma changes the meaning of what you're saying
Especially if it's the Oxford.
in a legal
comma.
document. Yeah, exactly my point.
There
And
was
so,
that case in Maine.
yes, exactly. So if you say red, comma, white, comma, and blue, it means something. But if you say red, comma, white, and blue with no comma, it means something else. Not in that specific example, but in
Mhm.
legal writing, it does. I mean, it's.
So
citing
punctuation
everything.
and
It's
accuracy.
punctuation, it's italicization, it's underlining. It should be a uniform document from start to finish. It should all flow together so that you can say, look at the ordinance and say, oh yeah, this all goes together.
Well, it's not the planning board's ordinance yet. It's something that's been offered to us as
Right.
as a model ordinance. So any individual member of the planning board or a tag team group can make changes and mess around with it and do everything and bring it back to the full planning board, and discuss it for months without having to vote on each change necessarily, because it's not the town of Tamworth's ordinance yet.
Well, it doesn't need to be discussed for months, I don't think.
No,
I
no.
think, if I go through, if it is a Word document that I can make changes on, and I can change the fonts and the style and all that
Yeah.
stuff, and I could
But-
bring it back to you, I will.
But
but-
keep the original in that process. So we have.
I will. Well, I
Okay.
presumably she has.
We
it.
all
Well, we all have it,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
We all do.
Download your copy and have fun.
Well, or highlight it in red such that we know what your changes are. That's
Yeah,
the,
well, I plan to tell you what my changes are, maybe in the, whatever you call it, the smaller committee.
yes.
Because there are things that need to be discussed that aren't things that I personally should make a decision about, or even the steering
Right.
committee should make a decision about. But we should have a recommendation to the planning board, and then you, as a whole, make a decision.
Correct.
Some of the things that I had questions about were, for example, when you talk about the Board of Selectmen having looked at this, they use language throughout this where they'll be talking along about the planning board, and all of a sudden they stop talking about the planning board and they start talking about the Board of Selectmen. And you're like, well, wait a minute, we were talking about the planning board, where did they go? So, just to give you a quick example, look at section 5.5 if you have it. Well, just section 5.
By the way, the section numbers were off. Basic
Pat,
stuff.
do you need a copy? Would you pass that down?
Yeah.
So, section 5 has to do with review and approval authority and approval process. In the opening statement, they say, no person shall construct or expand a PWSF without approval of the planning board and/or the Board of Selectmen. My question, should that be and/or?
Yeah.
Or should that be and, or should that be or? It
Well-
should not be and/or. It shouldn't be, oh, we have all this
Yeah.
authority, but, oh, wait a
Yeah,
second, they
but
went
they-
to them
they
first,
also,
and
yeah.
so they
Yeah.
did it instead.
So, in my quick view is that it's gotta be and, because each.
Or.
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 Or,
And-
or.
And here's my.
Although
okay.
it has to be both.
So don't give me your quick view, because this requires
Right.
thought.
I agree.
So my thought, having read the whole entire document, was this should either be a planning board situation, or we should give long, hard consideration to where it should be something that involves the selectmen, or if they should be involved at all. And so like if you read through this, for example, 5.3.1, the planning board shall act to accept or deny the completed applications within, and it gives a certain number of days. Then you go on, upon receipt of a planning board approved site plan, and then all of a sudden, you're talking about in section 5.5, the second paragraph, within 45 calendar days of receiving a co-location or modification application, the selectmen shall. And then they talk about reviewing the application, and I'm thinking to myself, why not the planning board?
They're saying in light of its conformity with the town's applicable building permit requirements. We don't have building permit requirements.
Well, that's another
Which is
thing
why-
that needs to be talked about.
So there's stuff all the way through here that's based on assumptions
Yeah.
of what
Don't
towns have.
actually- yeah.
That they have building
Right.
inspectors, that they have building permits, that they have zoning. I
We
remember
do
early
have
on-
a building notification requirement. We do have that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
It's
we're not gonna
confusing.
solve this tonight.
No.
yeah.
No,
But
we're
what
not.
I'm saying is this whole document, forget the style stuff, which I can fix, but the whole document has issues that should be thought about and talked about, and then have a presentation made to us and make a decision, and to the selectmen and make a decision, because they may not want the extra duties that come with this document.
The plan, I mean, the Board of Select.
Selectmen, they may prefer that this all be handled by the planning board and then presented to them as a fait accompli and let them decide, you know,
Yeah.
we'll check off on that or we won't check off
Yeah,
on that.
all the above. One thing, it is the requirement that anything over $5,000 in construction fees has to go to the Board of Selectmen through a building notification.
Mhm.
And that, I assume, is part of this.
There's not one word in here about fees, about amount of fees or who it goes to or any of that.
Right,
But
and
the-
it would not have to be in, wouldn't necessarily have to be in here. It's a,
It's a subsequent thing. I
It's
mean,
a-
it's
it's
not
a-
in
it's
our
a-
subdivision regulations.
no, I think you have to be careful to not confuse the ordinance as drafted and then perhaps enforced by the planning board with what other town actions might be required for the construction of a tower, like a building notification.
Well,
Well, my point is
I-
just this.
I mean, there
This
is
is a substantial document, and it has two reasons. One is tell the person applying for an application to build one of these towers what their rights are and what their obligations are. It also applies to the planning board. What's our authority? Where does it come from? And what rights do we have? What requirements do we have to present, you know, to take applications and turn them around in a certain amount of time? A lot of that stuff is set up by federal and state law,
yes, it is.
and we can't change it.
No.
And so,
That's that
but
Kate-
it needs to be clear, so that they will know what their rights are and we will know.
One
Right.
It
thing
can't
that,
be ambiguous,
One-
and this is ambiguous.
one thing that you're gonna wanna do is, once you make all these little adjustments and changes and everything and come up with a document that you feel actually reflects Tamworth rather than any city, New Hampshire, is then you're gonna wanna send it to the town attorney to review.
True.
And at that point, it may be that this person in that office is not as familiar with
Right.
Tamworth as
Course.
our attorney would have to be in reviewing a document that we are saying we're gonna take
Yeah.
to
I mean-
our
So-
citizens at a town meeting.
Yeah.
Does the
So-
town attorney typically review every ordinance before it's presented, like, to the town meeting?
Well,
Okay.
that's
I
a,
didn't
that
know.
would be a yes.
Yes.
And
That'd be a good idea, I just.
we would
didn't know.
insist upon that.
Do
Yeah.
we pay for that, or do the Board of Selectmen pay the town attorney, or who pays the town attorney?
I don't know how it breaks down, but I know that you cannot put something on the town warrant
Yeah.
unless it's been reviewed by your town attorney to make sure it's okay.
Yeah. I mean,
So
mean,
you,
the-
you know, whether the whether it comes out of this budget or another part of the town budget.
Well, we do have a budget for such an
Right.
item in
Right.
our budget.
Um,
It's not a lot of
so,
it. We just burned through most of it, but.
Yep.
Our budget is
It's
cut.
all
Yeah, and our budget's cut, yeah.
So I mean, the bottom line is I will make the changes to the style stuff that doesn't
Yeah.
affect the substance.
Good point.
But I would like to, you know, Andy and I and whoever else you decide. should
Well,
do this.
I wouldn't mind being involved, but I think the point of appointing a subcommittee that I do think is 3 members or less would be best at our next meeting, because we'll have
Yeah,
a,
I'm fine.
You
An
know,
updated board.
you can invite a 4th person onto that committee that's
Who's
not
not
on
on
the,
them.
who's not on the planning board.
good point.
And we have alternates.
Well, we're gonna have to find alternates. Anybody
They're
interested?
town.
Anybody interested?
Well, can I say one more thing, and then I'll be
Sure.
quiet. For the initial meeting where literally we're gonna go through this line by line
Yeah,
and discuss it, it's gonna take some time, maybe.
yes, it will.
7
But
or
it'll be
8
a
hours.
series of meetings, I think.
Well, yeah, it could be a series of meetings, but the only thing I was gonna say is, setting up meetings with more than 3 people,
Is very,
you're starting to make it really hard.
Right, no,
And so if the first run-through could just be as quick and as few people as possible, then when you get, you know, if you've got questions left over after that, then if you wanna expand the group or whatever,
yeah,
fine.
that makes sense to
But,
me. I mean, the point
like,
of
we
being,
couldn't meet, we had a meeting scheduled and we thought about 2 different dates, we finally picked a date and you couldn't come and then you came just to say you couldn't stay, so.
well, because it snowed, I mean,
Right, no, I'm just
first of all, I
saying.
couldn't even park, I was parked on the road and I thought a plow was gonna come by.
No,
And
I'm-
secondly, I needed to do snow removal.
Which is
All
why
this,
I'm
this is
saying
what
it's
happens though.
keep the group small until we're ready to, you know.
I think
start
3 is a
making-
good number, 2 or 3 even, you
Yeah.
know, initially.
I'd also suggest if, that I would endorse what Kathy's saying, that she could do the organizational stuff that's not any substantive changes.
Right.
And distribute that to whoever the small team is.
That really
The
makes
steering
sense.
committee.
Because that way everyone will have a clean, not worried about dots and italics and,
Right.
Yeah,
and or
Yeah, I
and
mean,
all
if you
that.
look at my copy right now,
I
you
can.
wouldn't be able to read it.
And I'm just
a
saying.
lot of
that-
red.
that
It's got lines and words and, you know.
You're gonna wanna do a track changes, probably with the full board eventually, but don't start the track changes with the document we have now.
Exactly.
And end up tracking all that rearrangement of the table of contents and everything. Get your organizational changes done, as long as
Yeah.
none of them are
Yeah.
Substantive.
Well, I mean, ultimately, the
then
subcommittee's
start
gonna
with
make a
that.
recommendation to the planning board.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then ultimately, I think even before it goes to town attorney, it should go to the selectmen, because we're gonna have a whole nother go-around on that.
Exactly.
There- I
Yeah.
mean, there's
The town
essentially
attorney should
three,
be the
there's
last
3
stop
go-arounds.
before the board meeting.
One within ourselves, one with the board of selectmen, and one with the town attorney.
And the town attorney one should be way down the road.
Oh,
after
yeah,
you feel you've
until
done
we've
it.
really
Got
nailed
right.
it.
But you might find yourself in a position of wanting to send an email back to the lady who did the original one, saying, we see a conflict with how our town is set up. Can you tell us, is that just sort of general boilerplate? You might get a quick answer.
Well, I mean, it was kind
I
of
don't think
surprising.
there's really, I mean, I've read the document, I don't think there's anything that's a conflict like that.
Okay.
I mean, the fact that there was a lot of mentioning of zoning, and, you know, we don't have zoning.
Right.
I was hoping that she would have understood that.
Right.
Well, yeah.
And we ought, you know, there's, anyway, okay. That's it.
Pat?
So what this is it's an initiation of how to initiate what we're doing. And
You want a motion?
Not yet.
I
I
don't
don't
Yeah.
I want a
think we need a
question.
motion.
I'm going to ask Becca.
Yeah.
Remember when the other tower went up and there was a lot of controversy? Then there was the zoning, the ZBA came
Yeah.
involved. There's some discussion of whether there is even need of a ZBA anymore.
I know.
But I'm not would one be needed for this? Like,
Well, yes,
Because,
That's what I
you
because-
need a ZBA if you have any land use ordinances, of which the wireless one is, because it's site plan. So, I think I'm correct on that. Anyway, the reason we had the ZBA involved before, and we had a joint meeting of the ZBA and the planning board, was because whoever it was, American Tower or whoever it was looking for a variance to the cell tower ordinance. And you need a ZBA to grant a variance. So you need to have a ZBA of some sort. If you don't have an appointed ZBA, the select board has to act
Exactly.
as the ZBA. And I would submit that that's putting another burden on their shoulders that they don't need. And as actually said to one of the selectmen, I also think it's more appropriate for the ZBA to have people who have some land use understanding.
well, I mean, someone like you would be a perfect example of maybe we should have a CBA, you know, that might meet once a decade.
Right.
Do
But
we have
that,
a
but
ZBA?
that, you know.
Well, the
Jo-
ZBA members are appointed in Tamworth. In
Yeah.
Effingham, they're elected, so I'm not sure how that works. Maybe it's
But
something
I
that's
think,
decided.
I think we could put together, the planning board could put together a ZBA rather quickly on short notice if we had to.
Well, the
We
planning
have
board
the
doesn't get to
authority
put
to do that?
together a ZBA.
So that's a
So-
Board of
The selectmen
Selectmen
do it.
item?
Yeah, the Board of
If it's-
Selectmen appoints a ZBA,
All
and there
right.
were ZBA members that were appointed, but they're appointed for a certain amount of terms,
Yeah.
and those terms have lapsed. But there's no reason to not think that those people, some of those people, wouldn't be willing to continue to serve.
Yeah.
It's sort of the fault of the ZBA and also the fault of the Board of Selectmen that they didn't keep up with it,
Right.
because.
Well, I
I
think
think the
there's,
selectmen are going to actually ask for people to think about being on a ZBA.
right, I think this is impetus.
Which is a good
What this ordinance is gonna do for the planning board and the Board of Selectmen is gonna give us impetus to start filling in the gaps
Right.
that we have.
Right, so I would just say that, as far as the ZBA goes, that this ordinance is just one example of why a town needs someone,
Yeah.
some group to be acting as a ZBA.
Okay. All right, so, just from a practical matter, I'm willing to get together with you again, Kathi, before our next March 27th meeting. I have to say, not next week and not the week after, because I'm really, really, really busy.
Well, it won't be next week unless you're coming to Nashville, because that's where I'll be.
Okay, but let's look forward
Let's
to,
all go.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, that
To
sounds
Nashville?
really good.
Yeah.
Nashville.
Absolutely. I like that.
But let's
No.
look forward to
No.
something before, you know, maybe just, you know, late,
Maybe the week of the 18th, because that's the week before our meeting in
the week of
March.
the 18th actually would work for me. Do you want to call me about that or email me about that?
I will, and I will talk to Andy about it, and we'll come up with two
2 days.
alternatives, and you can choose. Will that work?
Fine.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah, the week of the
I
18th.
I blame the weather for me.
The week
Last
of
time,
the
so hopefully
18th
it's
is good
better.
for me.
All right.
With that in mind, we don't need any other further discussion on the cell tower ordinance.
Not at present, right?
So, we're going to adjourn to my house.
Oh, I have a couple of things I wanted to bring up.
Okay,
Excuse me.
as long as it doesn't take more than 5 minutes.
No, I've got some stuff here, and it's going into what my father used to call a round file, unless someone wants it. Here is a September 2015 Mount Washington Valley Region Strategies to Support Affordable Housing and Economic Diversification.
Well, that's pretty.
I think you probably have one.
That's pretty
but
good.
You can pass it on to someone
I
else.
like
on
that
the-
one.
Okay, Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy for Planning Boards by Mount Washington Valley Citizens Energy Team.
I think I have that.
I have that. That was distributed to us a while ago, but I have that.
Okay, you not have it?
I'll take it, no.
Okay. Economic Opportunity Environmental Quality Lakes Region Plan. This is, says 2015 to 2012. It seems to be going backwards, but anyway, it's a nicely printed up document.
Maybe inside it says 2022. It's just a typo on the front.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be an inside or a marginal thing, introduction. Vision statement.
Okay, anybody want it? I don't, I'm gonna pass on that one myself.
Okay?
What's the next one?
Housing matters. Workforce housing, everyone's business, Mount Washington Valley.
Is there a planning board
That should go with
library
this.
that all this
That should go
stuff
with
should
that.
go in?
It's not a
maybe?
bad idea, yeah.
Yeah, this was a handout, this is a printout from LRPC. I mean, it's, you know, it's got a lot of color print to it, so I hate to just
Yes.
dump it.
Okay, I gotta get this thing going here.
Okay. Okay, then, who wants to be on the public's, the municipal building, public safety building committee? Who's gonna do that? Nobody knows.
That's a good question.
Here's my
Go
file.
ahead, Eric, go ahead.
I will
It's a
keep it.
Pass it on to them. It's filled with all my notes and some agendas and some minutes and all sorts of this and that and the other. And the next person can just take the entire thing and dump it if they want.
No, no, no.
But, it's got the police advisory report in it as well, because at that point there was the discussion about what the public safety building was gonna have. But,
Great, thank you.
and feel free to just, just dump it. I guess that's it. Okay, no takers on this, I'll just, recycle it.
Yeah, this is not 409.
I have nothing pressing that week.
Do you want to try for Wednesday night?
Yep.
Since we're Wednesday night?
No, you should.
First Wednesday afternoon. What time? do you-
I think we're done.
I'm typically back.
I don't know, vote on it.
By 4
You
o'clock.
never know, we're not done till.
Why don't we
There
say
it is.
There's a motion.
5,
5
4,
o'clock?
5? I mean, 4, if 4
4.
works for you,
Yeah.
4 is fine.
Okay,
And I'm assuming,
so we'll say Wednesday, is that what we said, Wednesday?
well, we have to come up with 2 dates.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put subcommittee. 4, maybe 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Yeah, 'cause we're gonna.
Sheldon,
Yeah,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
okay. All right, here, I just wanted to put those two things away.
Go ahead. Okay,
So the motion to adjourn has been set, but before we motion to adjourn, I would like to say the adjournment is at my place. I have 2 parking spaces right in front of my house, and then just past my house, on the right, about, I would say 100 feet past my house on the right is a house that's not occupied, has a large parking area. So the first 2 people that park in front of my house can grab those 2, and anybody else can just go a little bit beyond to the right, and there's more parking right there. It's a very short walk to my house. Is anyone else coming, our spouses or anything?
My spouse is supposed to come pick me up here and drive me there, so
Very
that
nice.
we're not there
Okay.
with 2 cars.
Is everyone coming? I hope.
I'm not.
I've got a really nice thing
Cake.
going.
I heard there.
I really hope
I
that
heard
you
there would
come.
be cake.
It's part of our agenda.
Are you coming?
Are you having a planning board meeting at your house?
No, we're having a party. just-
We're adjourning, and then
Well,
we're honoring a member who's leaving. We're gonna adjourn the meeting. It's gonna be,
It's a
the
social
meeting will
event.
be done, but then we're gonna meet as just people to celebrate one of our members who's leaving the board.
Okay, it just sounded funny that you were going to adjourn and then have the rest of the meeting at your house. It just
No, it's
didn't
not the rest of the
sound
meeting,
right.
it's
No, no.
cake.
No, it's cake.
Okay,
It's cake.
It's dessert.
thank you for inviting me, but I just.
But it's, I mean, because of the way you put it, it's actually been noticed if anyone
Okay, that's okay.
questions.
You're welcome to come.
Well, that was
Be
the
there.
second thing. If it was gonna be a planning board meeting, I was wondering, did you actually post it at your house? That's all I'm saying.
No, it's not a planning
Oh,
board
'cause it would
meeting.
have to be at
It's on the
location
agenda.
too,
It's
yeah.
strictly social, and you're welcome to come.
Post adjournment.
And the meeting will be adjourned before we leave.
Okay.
So.
It would be lovely if you can come, and
I
I'm
know, but
hoping
I
other
just-
people can
I
come.
just don't think I will, but thank And no offense to any of you. Thank you.
I'm assuming
Spend
that
enough time
the zoning board of adjustment shall consist of 5 members. The members of the board shall either be elected in the manner prescribed by RSA 669 or appointed in a manner prescribed by the local legislative body. I'm assuming that town meeting at some point voted to have the ZBA appointed by the board of selectmen
At some point.
at some point, because otherwise they would be elected. But if the legislative body, which is our town meeting, has
Yeah.
done that, so
Okay,
there's your feedback.
thank you. And whose book is this? Yours?
There was one sitting right in front.
I have one.
That would
Has
have
everyone got a book?
that would have been Aaron's, but he's not here.
All right, so I'm gonna, yeah, just put it back up.
So no takers on
Okay,
this,
is there a
huh?
motion
Okay.
to adjourn?
Did it.
He did it already.
All right, a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I
Right.